Welcome to the Autonomic Healing Podcast. I'm Tom Pells.
And I'm Ruth Lawrenson. We'll be unpacking what it looks like to activate your brain to holistically manage stress and trauma that bring healing to the mind, body, and spirit.
Being free to live authentically as humans.
Thank you for joining us. Let's get this conversation started. So, Tom.
Yes.
We are on the letter T today.
Yes.
In our ABCs of thriving, and in these conversations that we've been having. We were just talking and reflecting that we've been doing this podcast for almost 3 years now. So such a joy for me, I know.
And I've loved it.
And I think it's been really beneficial to our listeners. We get people reach out from time to time, don't we, to just say that it's been super helpful. So anyway.
And the listening.
Yes.
Demonstrates that, I think.
Of course.
Why would people keep listening? Mm-hmm. So many listening. If it wasn't.
Yeah.
So that's the point.
Mm-hmm. So we are in this little series that we've been doing called the ABCs of Thriving, where we get to enjoy delving deep into a letter and a word that it might represent, and really to look at how do we, what does thriving look like? You know, we are in a world.
That's the T.
It is the T, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's been the T of the whole ABCs, but particularly this time it's going to be the T.
Yeah, very much so.
So what is it about thriving, the letter T? Like, let's talk about that. Like, what's the other word? Because we have another word to go.
Time.
Time.
It is time for thriving.
Time for thriving. I would imagine most of our listeners would be, wherever they are now, going, hell yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, come on.
Time
for
thriving. Time to thrive. Whatever the phrase is.
Mm-hmm. And of course
and it is.
Yeah. Go on.
Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, I mean, it is, like, obviously, thriving is the arc of the whole little mini-series that we're doing.
And not just surviving.
Yeah, and I think that's why I was going to bring it up, because I think that it is not typical for people to thrive these days. You know, it feels like, I think that's why I said that listeners will be going, hell yes, because it's like, oh, what, we get to thrive? Well, that's nice. You know, that feels refreshing. Mm-hmm. And I think that we are on the edge of surviving, if not surviving a lot of the times. So this is a real movement towards, you know, there's hope in this, there's vision in this, to like, there is this way of thriving.
Why not?
This is what we're trying to unpack. What are the constructs of having a life that is thriving? So I just wanted to say that, because I know we've been saying that all the time, because the whole series is, but particularly in this one, we're talking about time for thriving. And yes, we want to thrive. And so what's time got to do with all of this, to kick us off?
Our use of tenses impacts thriving versus surviving. The way tenses are the way we refer to time. Bottom line, there is past and present and future. And we're always thinking about time. We may not even be consciously aware that we are thinking of time, but we are always thinking about time. Mm-hmm. And how we think about time makes all the difference in the world between whether we are surviving or not even sure about that, or whether we're thriving.
Yeah.
So there's a phrase that I've often used in talking with people. Your tense is showing.
I love that, Tom.
Your tense is showing. We usually would say, like, your something is showing, like,
your underwear's showing.
Yes, or something is showing. That sometimes our tense is showing. Mm-hmm. And it can be a source of self-conscious embarrassment. Mm-hmm.
So that's either our past tense or our future tense. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So time is often expressed in terms of past, present, and future. And there is a fundamental human habit to use the past tense when referring to perceptions and issues that have been the case historically, even when change has taken place.
Yeah.
Because something was a certain way for so very long, we habitually think of it as that's how it is.
Yeah.
Even if it isn't.
So this is where time literally can trip us up with thriving.
Does.
And particularly it's our past. So really what we're talking about is how our past tense is informing our negative anticipation of a future tense.
Yep. And really sucks the life out of the present tense.
Yeah, it does.
So the way I like to put it is we often resort habitually to that was then, then is now, and then will be the future. So if you think about it, connect with your past and think of something that was profoundly, perhaps even not just traumatically, but abusively traumatic and impactful. And that can fundamentally shape that.
So we have an anticipation. So something looks similar to what happened there. I was talking to a friend actually a couple of days ago who said to me that we were talking about just kind of some of these things that we have like a negative anticipation over. And she had a really hard story. She said she was at one point held by gunpoint. Her and some friends drove up to a garage, and a group of guys pushed them. I mean, it's full on. They pushed them down to the floor, and she said that she had a gun right to the back of her head, and they got, they all got away, which was great. But these guys had killed people before, so. And this was a long time ago, but she was telling me, how she will go into a restaurant. She's looking for the exit doors. And and obviously that's an incredibly strong, traumatic example. But there are people who have all sorts of variations.
We all do.
And it might, obviously that's going to be very rare for someone to have that. But it could be that, a friend treated you really badly. And that's the thing that was so devastating for you. And so now every friendship that you go through, you're kind of looking for those signs, or the signs can feel similar to what happened before. What other examples are there? There's like plenty, aren't there?
Yeah. A very common one is I don't matter.
Yeah.
I'm not significant.
And that comes from, I would imagine, all sorts of places. Some, childhood traumas, broken relationships where people have not treated you well. But yeah, I mean, I know that we've talked about this before, but I know that for me, that's like a really important one. Like, I want to matter. I want to matter to the people who matter to me.
We want to be significant.
Yeah. So the idea for me, especially with really significant relationships, the fear that I don't matter can totally trip me up. It feels like, because I guess it's like trusting that space of a relationship where, I think the joy of good relationships is that you matter to one another, like that's the point.
Yeah. Right.
So I think for me, the I don't matter thing can very much be a past tense. My tense does show sometimes. And it can trip me up and make me miss the present and make me misinterpret the present and then project something that's completely not true into the future.
Absolutely.
So that's like a really important one, I think.
Another one is safety.
Yeah.
I'm not safe.
Like my friend with the
I'm
gun.
not safe.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was then is now, and then will be the future. And the way we think about time is impacted to the point that we may even question whether we're going to survive.
Yeah, so let's talk about the core issues a little bit here, because there are what's going on underneath, because I think that's the spiral. Because I actually think this isn't just like these random it actually can send you in a spiral.
That's
so
the
this
tsunami
is like
of stress.
Yeah, so
and
this
those
is
core issues.
This is like, it's tripping you up to get you out of like if you are in thriving, it can trip you up to get you out of thriving into this tsunami of stress.
Yep.
Which ends up being a cycle. But I think one of the things when you allow your past to inform your present and predict the future.
Or deform it.
That's a much better word. Yeah.
So wait.
Yeah.
Deforming the present.
Yeah. What is happening inside? So what happens inside, I guess is what I'm saying. So like, I know for me, Tom, what happens is that I feel powerless.
Yes.
That's one of the things that happens to me.
And one of the things that happens before that isn't recognized,
mm-hmm.
you even feel powerless. When we experience something in the present, it can take that past and move it into the present. That's why that was then is now. And then we project that into the future. Then will be the future. Because if something in the present has enough in common with that past, it drags that past into the present. And sometimes it's not even conscious. It's simply emotionally present.
Mm-hmm.
And it causes us to feel that the first of those core issues, which is insecure and inadequate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we may not even identify
mm-hmm.
that we are feeling that. We just feel inadequate and insecure. And then when that escalates, we feel powerless.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I feel powerless? Why do I think of myself as powerless? Only because I've felt inadequate
mm-hmm.
and insecure.
Yeah.
So of course I would feel powerless because I'm not adequate and I'm not secure.
And of course that's the first core issue, isn't it? Because basically anything from the past that has been negative, that has harmed you, that has brought stress or trauma, will make you feel like there's an inadequacy. There's so it's going to immediately speak into that. So if we allow, it might feel like the past, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point, is that it can seem like the past. But the trick is not to agree with that, not to
mm-hmm.
say, yes, this is happening again. It's not necessarily, but the core issues of that can get you into a cycle.
Yep.
Of feeling inadequate,
and
insecure, yeah. And then that leads to, I think this is so helpful actually, because we haven't talked about the core issues.
Not in
a while. And so
then naturally we feel powerless.
Yeah.
And then being inadequate
so that's the second
and insecure.
Stage of the tsunami of stress. Yeah.
And being insecure and inadequate and feeling powerless, now it's a control issue.
Mm-hmm.
And we lack it. Somebody or something has control and I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And then those collectively cause our self-image and self-esteem to suffer.
Yeah.
And then surviving.
Yeah.
Yeah? Maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. Or instead of that was then and then is now and then will be the future, it can be time to thrive. And we can use time for thriving by the way we think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So even if change has taken place, we often slide back into that then was then and then is now and then is the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that often occurs even when beneficial changes have taken place. The present isn't the past.
No.
And the present isn't even like the past. But if it is like it enough in this way, then I'm not living now and I'm not present. And so the way I like to have that shift and encourage that shift is that was then, this is now. And this and more is the future.
That's so good. I want to print a t-shirt with that on. I think that would be very helpful for lots and lots of people, including myself. But that's an incredible shift, you know.
And how you can facilitate that shift is by taking account for and acknowledging that was then is now, and I am projecting that into the future. Stop. No.
Mm-hmm.
Acknowledge ways that the present does have commonality with the past and saying, but that's not the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
That may not even be the majority of an accurate representation of the present. That was then, yes. And it was then. And this is now. And then affirming all the things that are now. And this is now. And all the ways that it is better. It is improved. It has, change has occurred.
Mm-hmm.
And affirm it.
I love this so far, and I know there's a third aspect to this, but I just want to interject because I think that what I'm hearing is so healthy. Because what we're doing is we're not suppressing something. We're not trying to like muscle up and ignore that was then, right? Because we actually have to acknowledge it. It's part of our...
We get to.
It's part of our story. And I wonder even by, you know, when we get triggered and it's like, oh, this feels like it's happening again.
Mm-hmm.
If we acknowledge it, it's kind of part of our healing, I think. It's this ongoing healing of like, oh yeah, that was true. That happened then.
And
but then you firmly place it into the true then that it is, you know.
Because it isn't now.
Yeah, but then this idea of, well, what this is now. Like, that is such a strong statement. I was actually, when you were speaking, I was tearing up a little bit because I was like, because it made me feel incredibly hopeful, like about my own life.
Secure and capable.
Yeah. And like, this is now, that has a whole different take than then is now. You know, this is now is, it might not be perfect, but it is, there's learning, there's growth, there's change, there's fresh relationships, there's all sorts of things happening in this is now. And so I love that, Tom, because I just feel like it's just this spectrum of health and acknowledgement. We're not pushing anything down, we're not trying to pretend things didn't happen, but we're also not staying there. And right. That's the key. And we're not allowing it to deform this. Instead of that, we're going, well, okay, well, what is this? Let's acknowledge it. Let's claim this.
What is now?
Yeah.
Yes. I interestingly, timing, I just got back from a trip to my hometown and participated in a whole bunch of activities related to my 50th high school class reunion. 50 years ago. This summer, I graduated from high school. And what was fascinating was to encounter and reconnect with all these people, some of whom, a dozen or more, I had been all the way through elementary, middle school, and high school with, from kindergarten all the way through graduation, and reconnecting with all those people. Mm-hmm. And my experience of being Tom in elementary, middle school, it was junior high back in the day. They've changed the paradigm. And high school, yes, I experienced that, but I'm not that. That isn't who I am now.
Yeah.
And so many of the dynamics that, cliques in high school, they're just gone.
Mm-hmm.
We're just a bunch of adults, and some retired, some retiring. Me. What is retiring? I don't know. I don't have any interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm just continuing to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And my point was that there's so many experiences, and many of them were profoundly negatively impactful. When I was in junior high, well, what was interesting, one of the things that we did was the entire high school building itself had been expanded, and they tore down the junior high, which was brand new at the time, but now it's like, you tore down the junior high, it was new. Oh, wait, that was 50 years ago. Well, of course. And rebuilt it, expanded the high school. And it's this wonderful place. But I remember when, as we were going through the tour, and the principal of the school was taking us on this tour of this new high school, parts of it were literally a repurposed areas from the junior high. And when we were standing in the area that used to be the cafeteria, and that was torn down, but the part that used to be the cafeteria, I had this vivid recollection of being beaten up in the middle of the cafeteria by an older student who'd been left back, we used to call it, 3 years. So he was 3 years, and this was 7th grade for me. Yeah. So when he was an upperclassman, let back 3 years, so he was like...
very big.
Yeah. And being beaten up. With AHA, I can remember that and go, that's interesting. Because what had been so profoundly impactful related to secure, insecure, and inadequate, and powerless, and all the things that... No, that's not who I am. And then also able to say, that was then, but even how I thought about then is different.
Yeah. Well, I think you're thinking about then it's not denying then. No. You're thinking about it in the context of your story.
Of accept adversity.
Yeah. Well, I was just come back from a retreat, and that I was the newbie there. So we've both been on these little connections with different people, but and they asked me to share my story, and I haven't, whatever that. I said, how long have you got? And I just shared, obviously I'm a British person living in America, and so there's obviously some story like, where did you grow up? And so I sat down for about an hour and a half, and I haven't done this for such a long time, shared, the arc of my story up till now. So I went, all the way, and I didn't go into massive details on everything, but I shared my story, and it was a really interesting experience, Tom, because I just thought, I think I found it really refreshing to do the whole story, and it helped me put things in context. So it's like the thens were in context of the whole story, if that makes sense.
It does.
And I think that's the healthy way to use time. But yes. I wonder whether if we don't take the time to even understand our whole story or pause for a minute, we can get lost in the chapters or lost go round and round in circles on certain issues. And so, I think, and the reason I'm sharing it is because it's reminding me of what you just shared with your high school reunion, because there's part of it. This is your story. It was the beginning of your story. It's certainly not your story now. It's been part of your, even the negative things have been part of your story, but they don't get to deform who you are now. No. You can learn, in fact, you'll probably learn from 18-year-old Tom or 10-year-old Tom or,
totally.
So I think that's where time held in the context of the big story is helpful. I think for me, if I don't know my big story, I can get trapped on that was then and then is now, you know?
Yep.
Very easily.
And then that will be the future.
Exactly. But it's just taken time just to think, okay, hang on a minute. It hasn't all been bad, actually. Even the then hasn't all been bad. It hasn't all been trauma. It hasn't all been... There's actually been amazing opportunities.
Lovely, wonderful things.
Yes.
I had a classmate who... This was one gone all the way from kindergarten, all the way through graduating together. And as we were sharing and that sort of thing, I shared, the inevitable question, what are you doing now?
Mm-hmm.
And I shared that I'm a mental health therapist and had been a minister and all the rest of that. And she said, one of the things I wanted to make sure, and I was really glad that you were here at the reunion, is something that happened when we were in kindergarten together. I'm going, okay. And what she shared was that I was her first crush.
Oh.
Little kindergartners, right? And I was her first crush. And she had an older sister who was like wonderful. Okay. And she had very lovely fingernails that were painted and lovely hands and that sort of thing. And at the time, she said, I was a thumbsucker and I would chew my nails. And there was a 2-week period where you walked me home from school every day during kindergarten. And you were my first crush. And I so wanted not to have my chewed fingernails and my red thumb that motivated me to want to be like my sister and have these lovely fingernails that were painted. And she said I got over that. She said, so maybe as a kindergartner you were already helping people heal. And I'm going, yeah. Yay!
That's lovely.
That was a part of, and I didn't even know that.
No.
But to hear that now, 60 plus years later,
yeah,
that was a part, but I didn't even know it. And so that can be, that was then, but this is now. And we get to live in the now because it is always now. This is something that I really emphasize very often. We talk about time and we often experience time, as we've been talking about, past, present, and future. That was then is now, then will be the future. And the reality is that the past and the future are just conceptual. The past was, but is no longer. The future is just conceptual. May or may not even be. The future, when it occurs, isn't the future. It's all now. Past, present, and future is literally something we experience as now. We experienced the past as now. That was then. But it was now. The future, when it occurs, is just now. And the present is now. It's always now. We often don't think of it that way, though.
Yeah.
Which means we're not present in it.
Well, I think the danger is we can either be like lost in the past or daydreaming into the future and or not present.
Fearful of it.
Yeah, and not actually accessing the now. And I think for me, when I can engage this, Tom, I think this is part of the most healthy part of thriving in life is when we can be very present in the now. And I remember doing, a lot of my time as a mum is like wishing the now away. And I remember not long ago, before summer, I was driving to pick the kids up, and I was just like, oh, and in my head I was like, I've got to get there, to get there, to get there, and like I was just like on mission to do my stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And I picked my kids up, and they came in. My little daughter Penny, she's a chatterbox, and she was like, and I was like, yeah, and then I had a little thought that popped into my head, and it was, Ruth, be present.
Yes.
Because there's a gift now that you won't get. Mm-hmm. And so I had to like, yank my brain from this like future that wasn't even actually real until, and just be present. And then she started telling me all these funny, non-funny jokes, which of course became funny because they were non-funny. But this special moment, with my daughter. But I think those are for me, the more and more I can do that, I feel the more I'm living my life, to be present.
Yes. So we can consciously, intentionally live in now and be present now. That was then. Yep. This is now. Mm-hmm. And this and more is the future.
Yeah, I love that last saying too, because that last statement too, because that is incredibly envisioning. Whereas the one, that was then and then is now, it zaps the future. It kind of cancels the future out. This is a whole other thing.
And takes us out of the present.
This is building on the present to be hopeful for the future, and built on the real foundation of the present. It's not daydreaming.
Because it always is.
Yeah, but it's actually, this is now, and the future can be this and more. I think that's amazing.
So it is always now.
Mm-hmm.
Live, thrive. Time to thrive. Time in the way we experience it, time in the way we think about it. And why not let it be time to thrive?
So good. And let's use time wisely. Let's let it be the thing that helps us thrive. Like you say, time to thrive. I love that conversation, Tom.
No matter rich, poor, whatever, time is the one thing that we all have the same. We all have the same. You cannot be rich in time or poor in time. Time just is, and we all have the same amount. Mm-hmm. Now, what do we do with it? Be present in it and thrive.
So good. Well, we will continue our conversation next time. Thank you, Tom. I love this conversation. Yeah. Time to thrive.
You've been listening to the Autonomic Healing Podcast.
Join us next time as we continue in our conversations with Tom. If you're interested in pursuing your own autonomic healing journey and want to find a practitioner, visit our website, innerworkings.org. See you at the next episode.